My name's Malin. In this video I wanted to talk about natural flow. And I guess this can kind of go in hand, oh my god, with my broken wrist, and I've got a new cast and I still gotta have it for another month, which is at least another month, which is kinda crazy because it's already been 5 weeks. But I've done a bone that is like doesn't get a lot of blood flow to it, so it's going to take a really long time to heal. But then even if it does heal, I have a chance of getting arthritis in my hand, which is kind of messed up because I could be getting arthritis before I'm 40 in my hand, which means that I won't be able to play guitar. I won't really be able to use my hand that much, which would really suck. But thankfully, I'm going to hope that it heals well and nothing bad happens. But with all this time off, I've had a lot of time to kind of think and look at my actions and this kind of thing and realize that, there's a natural flow that makes life easier, and it can't really be structured, and it's very hard to kind of point the finger at. Like, I'll start by talking about like structure. Like, the way that we grow up and the way that we are brought up is we are taught to recall certain things. That's the kind of intelligence that is praise, is remembering numerical kind of math stuff and maybe like words and like writing and that kind of thing. And it doesn't really take into consideration the kinesthetic kind of aspects like using the body, muscle memory, creativity, and kind of like this unconscious kind of experience, like you can tell someone how to catch a ball, but if they've never caught a ball before, you can't do it. I'm just looking for something. Like I just do it sometimes, like I just throw stuff around and just catch it, and it's just like you don't even think, it just kind of happens, and it's kind of crazy to think that your body does that automatically without you even thinking about it. So with that into consideration, we're missing an aspect in our lives if we are only focused on disciplinary acts, because we are only using that for our conscious attention of our lives. Like we're using our brain power to work towards like a certain mode, which is very useful because the difference between humans and animals is that we have a conscious kind of awareness where we can differentiate things and we can structure and build on new things, and we can see from the past and look into the future, which is very good for survival because we can predict. We can say, oh, this happened in the past, so when this thing happens, that's going to happen. Like, for example, eating a poisonous berry, that guy died, so we shouldn't eat those berries. And this would have taken lifetimes to kind of work out, and through that, we have risen to the top, you could say, of the animal kingdom in a way. But this consciousness also causes us to feel isolated and disconnected from other people because we think that we are separate from nature, that we are not a part of it. We think that we are made into this world like some sort of construction kind of thing, especially in the Western kind of world where, we're not taught about nature as much. We're not taught about our connection to the land. Was just kind of this, just like work these jobs, and do these kind of wordy things and this numerical thing because that's what's deemed important and that's what our society has praised and that's how it is constructed. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but I'm just saying that it's missing a point if we don't realize that there's another side to it, that there's an unconscious side to it, that there's a side that is more intelligent than we give it credit for. And, this may sound kind of vague at first, but just think about shower thoughts. Like, you have some of your best thoughts, your best ideas when you aren't thinking about anything, when you're just in silence and you're not doing anything in particular. Your mind is allowed to run, and all of the things kind of filter down, and then these ideas spontaneously come up. And that's where the well of my creativity for finding songs and for uh, creating videos comes from, because that's where most of my ideas come from. It's not me sitting down and trying to white knuckle and think, and like, that's kind of like the school way of things, which I found really weird, was that you have to think harder, like, listen, pay attention, are you listening, you know? And then when people do that, they try and scrunch up their faces and they try and listen really hard and really pay attention, but they're just like scrunching themselves up. They're not actually allowing the words to come in. And I guess that's because we wanted to make more, like, from the Industrial Revolution, the way that we got taught education was that you have to fit a certain mold to fit a certain job. You know, things became more uh, structured in a way, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't take into consideration the individuation of people and how people can learn differently, and how there's more ways of learning than just that kind of way. Like, social intelligence is totally something that is, you can't really learn. It's just something that you pick up, that happens when you spend a lot of time talking to people and working on something like any kind of skill and being exposed to those kind of things, you know, and then allowing that to settle, and then your brain will like mull over it automatically and just come up with kind of different ways of saying things or doing things in certain ways. And then you'll pick up like unconscious cues from people about how they act and how they move and what that means. I think the problem that I found with myself when I tried incorporating these kind of things, like, there is no way to change yourself because you don't exist, because that isn't a concept of the mind, that is a idea, that is not who you really are. And it's like trying to lift yourself up with your own bootstraps and trying to taste your own tongue. You can't do it. And that can be really demotivating, because then it's like, well, what about all these goods that we've been promised? What about this like great thing that's supposed to be coming, that's supposed to be out there in the future? Like, where is that going to be? When is that going to come? Because since we can see the past and we can predict the future, we want there to be something that gives our life meaning, that makes everything feel great. Because whether that's like an afterlife or just a moment in our lives where things seem to click together, because we don't want life to continue in the same way that it always has, because in the back of our minds we realize that one day this is all going to end, and that we are going to die, and that it could all be pointless, you know, it all could feel pointless if there isn't something, if there isn't a prize at the end of the tunnel. And I guess this is what gets us chasing things so much and trying to find meaning and trying to create meaning in our lives, and why so much things on YouTube are, or around the world, like people talk about trying to achieve these things or do great things or whatever. Especially my generation, like I'm thinking of older people and they just kind of seem to stick to their jobs, kind of stick to that natural way of life, you know, but there is that little bit of shame and judgment for their things, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway, you know, kind of thing, like, who cares? And like I've said before, it's up to you how you decide to live, because ultimately it's your own experience that is your life, because you can never know anyone else's experience. And the only truth that I know for certain is that we will always be in the present moment, and that we cannot change our thoughts and our feelings. So we have to deal with them in whatever way we see fit and just learn to live with them. for some reason this made me kind of despair, like, why, if I could be better, why wouldn't I be better? Like, I can see that the past influences the future, so why shouldn't I be so concerned and so judgmental of myself and think that I have to be doing these things, otherwise I'm not a good person? And that was because the problem with that was that I was trying to meld myself into something that I wasn't. I was trying to deny my thoughts and my feelings. I was trying to create this perfect reality that in my mind I wanted life to be. And I was constantly chasing that because I thought what would set me free. And if you may think like, oh, well, this kind of seems stupid. If there's just the present, then I'll just do whatever the hell I feel like it. And that's what I've done. But then I've realized, like, there comes a point where you play so much video games and you get bored of it. You get sick of it for some reason. And if you listen to that, there's a natural inclination to go back and do some real things. And that's not to say that you have to completely quit video games because you feel bad and then you have to go on this grind to like do stuff. Like, you can have both, but it's just being aware of what makes you feel a certain way and how you want to feel and what actions you want to take in your life. I'm not really sure if this even makes sense because I'm trying to think of it on the fly and trying to explore it on the fly, and I don't feel like I'm doing it in the best way, but I think that's a more natural and better way to do things, rather than have like a set structure for how I do it, just allowing the words to come out and see what happens. Because as I said, like, as this video is about, there's a certain natural flow to life. There's a certain intelligence that's weird to put your head on. Like, where do the melodies come from that pop up in my head that I use to create songs? Like, where does that come from? And if you probably don't know what it's like, but when you write lyrics for songs, or you write poems, or you write in general, or even in talking, it could be, you find that your words flow and you don't have to think about them. And if you're kind of conscious about it, you can notice yourself doing it and create this kind of disconnect, which I was just trying to do then, which is kind of weird because it's like, am I saying these words? Are these words coming out of me? And why am I doing these kind of certain words? And how are they coming out? And it's kind of almost from this unconscious place that has been trained into us. And I think that's why I felt like I want to learn more languages, because then you can think in different ways and you can use different words, and your brain is more expanded in a certain way, and you can communicate to people in different ways. And there's some words that are in French that I prefer to English words, and some phrases in Japanese that just sound so much better than English. Like, cathedral sounds kind of nice in English, but cathédrale in French sounds way better. It just sounds cathédrale. I don't know, it just sounds kind of nicer to me. What other words are there? I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of talking too much in this video, so I'm probably going to stop now, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.